Talk about humiliation. Hello, everybody. David Schuster here. A day after this, Trump Media launches streaming service with MAGA-loving Newsmax. Newsmax got a brutal reminder live on their own air that some guests will not embrace the Trump propaganda.
At Seattle's Children Guild Association, Dr. Frederick Rivara.
Dr. Fred Rivara was invited to discuss a new study showing that the health of U.S. kids has declined significantly since 2007. Since Democrats controlled the White House for most of the past 18 years, the political implication of the Newsmax segment seemed clear.
Dr. Rivera, to what do you and your colleagues attribute this significant decline?
Well, there's a lot of different factors going on, as we outline in our editorial. And unfortunately, the big, terrible bill that was passed last week is just going to make all of those things worse.
Yes, instead of debating the past, the doctor startled the Newsmax host by blasting the present and future under Donald Trump. The tax and spending bill is, according to Rivara, not the solution, but part of the problem.
We have problems with providing adequate health care for children. As Dr. Forrest pointed out, we have major shortages of people taking care of mental health needs of children. We have a problem with easy access to firearms in the United States, which leads to our firearm death rate among children and youth be 20 times greater than in other countries.
Now, at this point, host Bob Brooks tried to push back on the Trump criticism and got stomped.
Doctor, do you think it's fair to blame this or put partial blame on the bill that just passed when this study was conducted from 2007 to 2023?
I didn't say that, did I? What I said is that the bill passed last week is going to make everything worse.
Potentially. How so?
Because it's going to affect Medicaid, for example. Like in our children's hospital, in Dr. Forrest's children's hospital, 50% or more of our patients are on Medicaid. The cuts to Medicaid are going to affect our ability to take care of those children.
So what was meant to be a conversation on research, which Newsmax wanted to leverage to criticize Democrats, boomeranged and became a brutal condemnation of Donald Trump and the Republicans in Congress. Amazing. The signs that the Newsmax anchors were out of their league with the doctors began at the start of the segment. Katrina Zish was marble-mouthed as she delivered the news and struggled with numbers.
Researchers publishing their findings in the Journal of American Medical Association outlining how the health of American children has declined dramatically since 2007.
Then it was the turn of Bob Brooks. His reading was fine for a few sentences.
They found, quote, trends from 2007 to 2023 have significantly worsened for child mortality, chronic physical development and mental health conditions, obesity, sleep health, early puberty, limitations in inactivity.
No, limitations in activity, not limitations in inactivity. Reading words and reciting numbers are clearly not the strengths of this Newsmax crew, and the humiliation of Newsmax kept coming. Never mind Dr. Rivara calling out the Trump administration, the other guest, Dr. Christopher Forrest, agreed that under Trump, things are going to get worse and that families need to take matters into their own hands.
I agree with Dr. Rivara that there are concerning trends in the future, but right now I think we have to rely on families and communities to take the initiative locally to start figuring out how they're going to transform what we call their developmental ecosystems to make them more healthful.
Translation, the federal policies under Donald Trump are going to hurt children even more. So parents and local communities should take the initiative on their own to try and help children. At the end of the segment, Dr. Rivara proved that he is reasonable and rational by how he answered a straightforward final question.
Just very quickly before we go, Dr. Rivara, do you think that, I would say almost kids' addiction, our society's addiction to social media plays a part in this, maybe even with depression and obesity?
Yes, I do think that social media plays an important part. We've seen tremendous increases in the mental health problems of children in the last decade. I think the only thing that we can all point to is this incredible rise in use of cell phones and rise of social media. That certainly is playing an important role.
All right, well, we're going to have to leave it there. But again, a fascinating study.
Look how angry Bob Brooks
is. Thing to
is.
focus on and hopefully to turn around for the better. Dr. Forrest, Dr. Rivara, thanks for bringing it to our attention.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A Newsmax host stunned and humiliated into silence. And that's what one might call must-see TV. And again, this came hours after Newsmax hoped the world would focus on the MAGA channel's new streaming partnership with the Trump Organization. But as anybody who's ever been to a circus knows, clowns frequently get tripped up over their own clumsiness. And Newsmax has a long record of hurting itself. The channel repeatedly lied about the 2020 election, got sued, and had to pay out. Headline: Newsmax reveals it agreed to pay Smartmatic $40 million in settlement with the voting machine company. During the congressional investigation into the January 6th riot, the special committee produced evidence that Donald Trump had tried to call and pressure a witness. Newsmax host Greg Kelly defended Trump with this.
Hey, maybe it was a butt dial, huh? Tell the Justice Department that. Okay.
Then, as federal prosecutors moved towards indicting Donald Trump over January the 6th and the classified documents he took to Mar-a-Lago, Newsmax embraced Donald Trump's talking points and suggested prosecutors would trigger a civil war.
But Trump, I mean, he's issuing a potential, obviously there's a potential indictment looming here at some point, but he is also saying an indictment would tear this country apart. He's not wrong, and I hate to, this is where we are, and it pains me to say this, but let's say they indict Trump. Well, what does the country do? I mean, is this the beginning of the dreaded, dare I say, civil war?
Donald Trump was indicted twice by the special counsel. A state prosecutor in New York also brought charges, and a jury convicted Trump on 34 counts. There was no civil war, no violence, and no tearing the country apart, despite the Newsmax projections. Then, during the 2024 presidential campaign, Newsmax earned widespread ridicule for this. Headline: Newsmax turns to Donald Trump Jr.'s fiancée to speak for black women.
How are black women going to respond when you try to subvert the woman on the screen?
Well, they're going to be very unhappy. I mean, Joe Biden.
Yes, Kimberly Guilfoyle, a Trump family member who is white, is speaking on behalf of black women after the Newsmax anchor, asked her to speak for black women.
But to pass over her is going to be a huge problem, probably with African-American, black voters, black women voters, all of the above.
The consistent and repulsive theme here is that the conservatives on Newsmax often claim to have superior knowledge and insights over everybody else. And their approach is often so absurd that it is beyond parody. However, leveraging widespread concerns about children in order to try and boost a conservative political agenda, well, that takes everything to a new low. Thankfully, there are some actual experts in our world, in this case doctors, who will not play along with the Trump propaganda or the Newsmax effort to diminish critics.
Doctor, do you think it's fair to blame this or put partial blame on the bill that just passed when this study was conducted from 2007 to 2023?
I didn't say that, did I? What I said is that the bill passed last week is going to make everything worse.
Boom! Watching that doctor correct, shock, and humiliate the Newsmax host was delightful. And as is often the case, Newsmax certainly deserved the punishment. By the way, in Texas, a rising Democratic star who was a devout Christian just slammed Republicans over the new ungodly tax and spending bill.
What would Jesus do about a tax system that benefits the rich over the poor? What would Jesus do about a healthcare system that forces the sick to start GoFundMe pages to afford life-saving surgeries? What would Jesus do about an education system that ties a child's school funding to their community's property wealth?
Check out that video at the link below. It generated a lot of comments on YouTube. One of the most popular is from Dr. 6377, who wrote that God would not have voted for the Trump regime. Indeed. I look forward to reading your comments about Newsmax getting humiliated by doctors live on Newsmax's own channel. I'm David Schuster. Thanks for joining us.